Paul, I come down most years before Cheltenham and we always chat about the strength of your team. How would you assess it going to the festival this time round?
Yeah, and nice team. Some nice chances, not a massive amount to run, but horses with chances, and that's what you want.
There's some flag bearers for you. Politolog probably the biggest name of those. Do you think that, in light of what happened last time out, people are once again going to underestimate him going to the festival?
I think he probably always is, but he's run consistently well. This is his 6th festival, which is incredible in itself. And you look at his form; he can only beat what he beats on the day. But he's probably not the highest Grade 1 performer there is out there. He's just consistent. He does his best, and there are often one or two that might just be slightly better than him on the day. So he always gives his all. It'll be tough for him again. But I think it's going to be a competitive race as normal. It's going to be hard for him.
When you look at Cheltenham, and actually in general the Irish from Dublin Racing Festival, there does look like there is some pretty exceptional horses coming over from Ireland, particularly in that race.
Yeah, particularly in that race. But that horse has not been to Cheltenham. He's got to perform at Cheltenham, of course. But if he does like he does at Leopardstown, he can take an awful lot of beating. He will be impossible to beat on what he's done so far this season. He has to reproduce it at Cheltenham. Look, he probably will, because Willies mostly do. But you never know. He might not find it to his liking, but I'd say if he does, he'll be hard to beat. And Politolog, its level of form is a higher level as that, so he will have to. He's not going to improve at his age, but as I said earlier, he's going to run a solid race, and he always does give his all.
Willie's never won that race, though. You say they always do, but they.
Well, there we are, but then his stats, records are there for breaking, as it were, and he probably will this year. I mean, that's a high-class horse, that, but he has got to act at Cheltenham, and it'll be a mighty competitive race. You could argue some of the races that he's had haven't been that competitive and have always been against the same horses. So he's coming, for an away game now, as it were, against the best that we can throw at him. But I think it'll be hard to beat.
Some say that actually he doesn't find an awful lot off the bridle. When you expect him after the back of the last to go and win by 15-20, he doesn't quite find as much. And people do make a lot about the Cheltenham form, and you're the reigning champion. You've been there, done it multiple times and got the T-shirt. For those that are watching this, that are perhaps watching a Cheltenham preview for the first time, it is a massive difference, isn't it? Cheltenham to any other course.
Yeah, it is. It's a different track. It's unique. It's undulating. It's sharp. It's sharper than what people think now. It's not a big galloping track, especially the race the Champion Chases on the old course, which is the first 2 days. It's not like a big galloping track like Leopardstown. It's a sharp, fast track, undulating, and then you've got the hill to contend with at the end. So it is unique. It is different, and it is a big plus if you've got a horse that acts on the course, as in Politolog.
Yeah, he's a bit of a star in the yard as well, isn't he, Politolog?
Oh, just look at his record, the races he's won and where he's done. 2 Tingle Creeks and a Champion Chase, deserved to win that. If he never wins another race, he's been one of those horses that you'd always want to train. Brilliant horse.
I suppose of the horses that are coming through, would it be fair to say that Bravemansgame is probably your, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but your best chance of a festival winner this year?
He's one of the best chances, yeah. I mean, those novice hurdles are very competitive, but he's done nothing wrong at all. He started off really well at Chepstow, beating a net by Soaring Glory, who's gone, of course, and won the Betfair hurdle. And that day, what I liked about him was that two was obviously too sharp. He learnt an awful lot that day, but Harry literally couldn't pull him up. He was off out the back of the track to stop, and then he's just progressed and won a Grade 1 shallow. So that puts him right in the mix, yeah. And he is a proper horse. Again, we can have the Willis horse and looks like Henry de Bromhead's horse to beat, and obviously some good horses from this country. So it's not an easy race to win, but he does look right up there with the best at the moment. What
I love about him is that every time I see him race, I just don't think we're anywhere near the bottom of him. Is that the impression you get when he runs as well?
Yeah, definitely. And it seemed what I liked about Newby from the back of the last to win the post. He was strong, and the further he goes, the better he goes. He jumps quick and well, and to me, it's a bonus what he wins over hurdles, because I can't wait for him to go chasing. And that's where you'll see the best of him, I've got no doubt. But
you've compared him already to Denman.
Well, it's difficult. I've compared him in the fact that he's gone down the same route as Denman so far. He's had 4 runs for Cheltenham. He's won a Challow, which of course Denman had done. And actually, Denman had achieved no more rating-wise than what this lad has done at this stage of his career. Of course, if he goes on and does what Denman did in the future, we'll be delighted. And he's a long while for ever doing that. But he started off in the right way. And if ever we've got a horse that's another Denman, or as good as Denman, coming through from the novice ranks at the moment, he's probably the one.
Was it an easy decision to run him in this race?
Yeah, he doesn't want 3 miles yet. You know, he's got plenty of boot. When he was over 2 miles earlier in the season, and I think you can go too far too soon with some of these horses. Yeah, he might step up in class and trip next year, but at the moment he's got enough. This trip is perfect for him, I'd say, and I definitely didn't want to go 3 miles. It never even entered my head.
How's his training gone into it?
It's great. The great thing, he's had 4 runs. I think horses going into Cheltenham really want to be fresh and very, very fit. So he's had a great preparation. He had a nice little break. He definitely didn't need another run. He's going to have an away day next week with all the Cheltenham runners. But he's just where I want him to be. Looks great and going nicely.
So we are, 2-3 weeks away from Cheltenham? Is that what you do every year? You take them all away for a Wincanton, is it?
Yeah. Not for a search and gallop, not because it just.
Yeah, what do you try and do with him?
They just have a lob round. They just do 2 miles. Just have a nice day out, really. Put them on the lorry and.
Does that just sharpen them up?
Yeah,
mentally?
it does sharpen them up. Yeah, they're hard horses. Frodon needs a good, strong piece of work for he hasn't had a run, but he needs a good, strong piece of work. Some of them don't, but basically they just have a good away day. And do accordingly what we think each horse may need or not need to do,
So Frodon on that day will have a decent piece of work.
Yeah, because he's just quite stuffy and he needs all the work he can have. And when he won the Ryanair 2 years ago, McCliff and I were just a bit worried he was a bit stuffy. And actually the week before we took him away and gave him a real strong piece of work. So he needs plenty. Bravemansgame doesn't. He's there at the moment. So you just do accordingly. But it does them all good. Just they've been, especially him, they haven't run since November. It does them good just have a little away day. Don't do too much with them, and it brings them on well.
Well, let's talk about Frodon now then, because I think if I'd said to you pre the King George he's going to be a leading fancy in the Gold Cup, would you have said, I'm not quite sure he's quite up to winning a Gold Cup? And how is your feeling going into the Gold Cup now with him?
Well, after he won at Cheltenham early in the season off top weight in that handicap, that was probably a career best in my book.
Did you think that we've got a Gold Cup horse here now?
He's capable of running the Gold Cup. We thought that, last year even, and we ran in the Ryanair again, and he was just outpaced really in that. So Paul, his owner, has always wanted to run in the Gold Cup, and I think this year's the right year. And he's won a Cotswold Chase. He's won at Cheltenham, I think 6 times. He loves it around there. So, to see him stay on strong at Cheltenham early in the season was good. I must admit, I didn't think he'd win the King George. I just thought he lacked a little bit of, speed to win around there and possibly class. He did that. Really, that was again another career best. And I watched it again the other night. You tend to forget, but he actually won really easily.
Yeah.
Ears pricked. And it really the wrong way around for him in a lot of ways.
Do you think he was? Some people might say that he might have been flattered by that because Bryony got the fraction spot on in front.
Every time a horse wins a King George, like Clanders about 1 or 2 years before you go into the race, it's one of the toughest, hottest races. And when they win, there's always an excuse for the ones that have been beat. That's all bullshit. He was the best horse on the day, galloped him into the ground, and we had a game plan that worked. And that's part of tactics. And we'll have the same at Cheltenham. And the best horse always wins a race. But when they do win, then no one ever tends to believe it.
Whereas with Clan would go to Cheltenham and there was that doubt about Cheltenham with him, which for a few seasons, is it fair to say that you thought wouldn't be an issue, and maybe it transpired that he didn't love Cheltenham? You've got a horse that's bolted up in a King George that absolutely adores that place. So confidence must be pretty high with him.
Yeah, and he's won a Ryanair, he's won a Cotswold Chase, all the right ingredients to win a Gold Cup. Seymour Business has done those sort of, his stamina's not an issue anymore. I mean, it might have been back on, but he won the Ryanair news races by staying on strong, and now he just suits him going further. No one will expect him to win a Gold Cup, quite rightly. You never want to think he'll finish there. But if he won the Gold Cup, I wouldn't be surprised, because that's just him. But he keeps surprising people.
But it's odd that, isn't it? Because he is the King George winner. Yeah. He's won a Ryanair. He's won a Cotswold. And even you telling me that now, you sort of forget it, don't you?
You just said, I was looking at Champ, his second favourite, and Santini sort of in front of him in the bet. I'm thinking, why?
Yeah.
He murdered Santini in the King George. I can't see him beating him at Cheltenham. But Frodon's always the underdog, so he don't care what price he is or where he is in the bet. He'll just go out there and give his best, and Brian will do the same. And to me, for the Gold Cup on Gold Cup day, the better the ground, the better for him. Good to soft would be absolutely perfect. I don't think he wants it too testing on for the Gold Cup trip.
John Frankham actually did a thing for ITV, and he said that he's probably one of the best jumpers of a fence he's ever seen. When he won at Cheltenham earlier in the season, I don't think I've seen a chaser put in as foot perfect around a jumping as that for a long time.
You're right, and he's got a lot of that. He jumps a little bit left, it's undulating, he loves that. He's got plenty of boot as well as stamina. You can have him where you want in a race. He doesn't have to make it. If Native River or wherever else wants to go flat out early on, that's right, just ride him accordingly. But if you end up in front, great. You're not going to go blitzing him from the front because you don't win a Gold Cup on type of horse like Frodon. He has got plenty of speed. He's not just a one-dimensional, what I call plodder. He's got plenty of tactical speed, and so we can ride him accordingly. And he deserves to run really well. You know, as I said, if he won, I wouldn't be surprised, but nobody will expect it. You know, they're going to think he'll finish third or fourth, run his good race, which he usually does. So, you know, he's one of those horses, but it's exciting to have him in there, and I think he's in good shape.
Of all the recent winners of the Gold Cup, of course, you famously trained Denman, Corto Star, that wonderful era. Albion Photo is hoping to do, well, make a bit of history and join Best Mate, etc., winning 3. How good a chaser do you think Albion Photo is?
Well, he's won 2. He's obviously the one to beat. And last year's was a funny race. It didn't seem to go too much of a gallop, and then he sort of stayed on strong. But you know, he's won it twice now. He's obviously the one. He is the one to beat, without a shadow of doubt. He's the one that everyone's got to aim at. And there's lots of horses underneath that are all much of a muchness, to be honest with you. Yeah,
it's a good point that actually about Santini and Champ, because when you look at your lad.
Well, he's gone and done it, and he's won a Cotswold, as we said earlier, Cotswold Chase. He's won a King George. And if his Gold Cup was on his CV, you'd say, well, you know, what he did before then. But it'll be tough for him, like any. It's the race of the festival. It's the creme de la creme, that race, and you need everything to go right. And
Bryony and him get on very well, don't they?
That's a plus. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's a great challenge. You know, from where he's come from to where he is going into a Gold Cup is fantastic.
Do you recognise not only I know you will recognise what a phenomenal achievement it will be for you to win another Gold Cup, but for racing, if Bryony was to win the Gold Cup on Frodon? Yeah,
it would be good. You know, any sort of big race she tends to win, to get lots of publicity, and any good publicity for racing is good for everybody. But if he won the Gold Cup, you know, the girl won the Gold Cup, it would be fantastic for everybody, really. And I don't know what the new roadmap is like, but maybe they might open the Manor up. Are they allowed to open the Manor up if you win the Gold Cup? I can't. I don't think anything's allowed to happen until next month. But you know, you'll have to make sure you have a good party when you can. We will have a good party in the summer if we're allowed to, just to make up for all the good times we've had during the season. Really, obviously, you know, haven't been able to do any of that. Nobody has, but in the summer, I'm sure we'll make up for it. But you know, it's a big word in racing. If he won the Gold Cup, it'd be fantastic. But he has got it all to do. Of the other horses, Next Destination is a horse who he's another one very much on the up. How talented do you think he is? He's obviously very good. You know, he had his problems. He missed best part of 3 years. He had quite a lot of serious injuries, and it was just a feat to get him on the track. The whole team had done well to get him on the track, and ran very well over hurdles at Wetherby. Then he's won his 2 chases, really. On ground, a bit quick for him at Newbury, and Warwick was a little bit tight for him. He'd stay forever. He couldn't have the ground soft enough. He probably wouldn't want it to dry up too much for his race. He does like soft ground and stays well. You know, he's a horse who's unlimited ability. But there's one in there called Monkfish. It looks, again, you know, hard to beat. But you could say... Yeah, are you going down that route, the old RSA route? I haven't spoke to Malcolm, but I'm not sure he's keen or I'm keen to run him in the 3 mile 6. But obviously now professionals can ride in that race. It's not an amateur race now. So, you know, it is an option, obviously, because he's in there. And I suppose we won't make that final decision to near the time. And if it kept drying out, you might just have it in your mind, because you know, 3 miles around there, if the ground was drying out, might be a bit sharp for him. So if it was soft, it would be perfect. Have you seen any chinks in Monkfish's armour? No, it looks hot. You know, he's got loads of boot. He jumps and travels, does everything. He's won at Cheltenham before, hasn't he? He's a proper horse, you know. He is. I mean, to me, he wouldn't look out of place in the Gold Cup. But you know, if he stays sound, he'd definitely be in the Gold Cup next year. He could end up being favourite after the end of this Cheltenham for it. Rich Ritchie might have a novice in that Gold Cup with Royal Pagite. Just purely for my own interest, would you, if you had Monkfish, would you always go down the novice route with him, or would you actually seriously consider running the Gold Cup? I've always been a great one, keep novices to novices and gain experience and then step up. You know, obviously Willie doesn't need to. He's got Albion Photo and several others, but I think, you know, it's one step at a time with those horses. Give them time. You can do too much too soon with them, really. Do you see Next Destination as a future Gold Cup horse? Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he's definitely good enough. He would probably want really soft ground to bring out the best in him, I'd say. I could see him running very well in next year's Ladbroke Trophy in Newbury in November, and then progressing from that. That would be a perfect race. But he's got enough ability, but he would, loads of stamina. So a real soft ground Gold Cup would suit him. As again, next week would perfect with Sopper. It does look like at the moment it's drying up.
I know, yeah.
You never know what. We've had all this wet ground all winter. And I always remember Ruby always said to me, every year he said to me in January, take no notice of the form at the moment. He said, because come spring ground, totally different ground, totally different results. And he was always right.
He's annoyingly is often right.
All those deep ground trials and all those racing through December, January and February often mean nothing come the festival.
And do you train your horses, do you build a season around your training plans with that in mind, so that they do less in sort of, after King George, January, February time, and then peak them for March?
It depends on the horse, really. I mean, to start with, you end up trying to win as many races as you can, then you suddenly realise, let's take Bravemansgame. Oh, look, we might have a Cheltenham horse here.
Right.
And once he's proved he's good enough, then obviously you've changed the tact, and we obviously haven't run, and we kept him fresh for the festival, because I think horses are good when they're fresh and very, very fit. These days, you don't need to give them runs to get them at their very best. I mean, I was talking to Clifford today. Look at Secret Investor on Sunday. He hadn't run for a long, long time, and he was ready without a racecourse gallop, without a run to the best race of his life. But he was very, very fit and very, very fresh, and that's how I think horses are at their very best. Some you sort of like are afterthoughts, so they'll show form and you end up progressing and run into. But I've never been one just to focus on Cheltenham, unless you really like when you had those really good ones. That was a main aim of the season. You still run them; they still can run plenty, and then after Christmas you think about Cheltenham.
That's true, actually, because in the years that we've got to know each other, the season for you in a sport where everything is geared towards Cheltenham, the media, etc. You've always seen it as a sort of 12-month thing, haven't you? You've never just gone Cheltenham.
It is, and do you know what? I'm in a position now, got the biggest string of horses at the moment, probably just, and owners and everything. And I can honestly say I haven't got one owner who's particularly, all it wants to do is go to Cheltenham.
Really?
I've got a lot of owners that would rather not go to Cheltenham unless they've got a chance. Would rather I win races either side of, go to Aintree, Ayr, Sandown, all those races. It's not all, and that's probably because of me, but I'm not. It's not a mindset. If you've got a horse good enough to run in the Gold Cup or those races, you're obvious. But I was just looking at Dan and mine and Nicky's trainer files for Cheltenham, and Nicky probably a bit more where there's a few. But you look at Gordon Elliott and Willis, horse after horse after horse after horse going to Cheltenham, 4 or 5 in a race. Well, that's not about what I want to do, and I'm not interested in that. If I've got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 that are good enough to run in the very good races, you go there. But if they're not good enough, let's go elsewhere. And I've got my programme book, or I've been looking at Aintree. I could probably have 2 in every race at Aintree. Can't wait for Aintree. So real serious. And look at the Grade 1 races. Look at Montmoral, for example. He could go in the Triumph. AQPS National horses like him don't have a great record in the Triumph. We're minding him a little bit. But if he goes to Aintree, he's a fantastic Grade 1, a lot of prize money. So it's not all about Cheltenham. It never has been and never will be. But yeah, we want to have winners at Cheltenham. We always do. But you need the right horses in the right races. There's no point wasting runs.
So you'll be very selective with the team that you send there.
More so than ever, because I have made mistakes over the year and look back and think, what was I doing running 2 or 3? Because you get enthusiastic. The media, everybody's, Cheltenham, we're going to have runners at Cheltenham. This year's different. A lot of owners like to have a runner because they can go. This year, because they can't go, it doesn't put so much pressure on you, so you can actually dodge away and just be very, very selective. And with the strength of the Irish issue, which is phenomenal, you just want to be selective and not waste runs.
That's true, yeah, because owners don't get that. We've got a runner.
For example, Andy Stewart. Andy's a great guy, always comes over from Barbados to Cheltenham and run as many as you can at Cheltenham for Andy because he likes to be there. Well, Andy can't come this year, obviously, so I'm under no pressure to run. He might have 1 runner this, possibly 2. So that makes a difference. You haven't got the pressure of people to have runners at Cheltenham. You can go anywhere you like and win races with them. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this to win races. Yeah. That's what I want to do it for, is get the best out of the horses in the right races.
Does that mean then that Barbados Bucks, who's Andy's horse in the Albert Barla, is that right? I mean, obviously that is the right race for that horse. Yeah. Do you give him a big chance then in that race?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, he hasn't run since Christmas because he'd had 4 runs. He's in progressive. Great race to run him in. Where else would you go with him now? I mean, to me, he can go to Cheltenham and Aintree if we're right, and then stop and go chasing next season. But that's a perfect race for him, yeah.
And 3 under 3.5 will also be in that.
Yeah, well, he's been a progressive. He's unbeaten now this year, and they won the 3 miles at Musselburgh the other day, their Cheltenham trial day, and just progressive horse, and there's nothing between him and Barbados Bucks at home.
Really?
And they're only rated a few pounds apart. So yeah, he's a very interesting horse. It could run. So they deserve to run in those races and could possibly go on to Aintree as well.
I always find that race a slog. It takes a real tough, hardy horse to win it, doesn't it?
Well, both those two are. They're both real strong, especially Barbados Bucks. I mean, he galloped forever, and he's a very strong finisher, which is what you want.
Because sometimes you can see some of the horses that come over from Ireland, or indeed good sort of horses on these shores, that look flashy when they run, but then they get into the hustle and bustle of an Albert Bartlett, and it can sort of, even though they're novices, it can sort of find out the men from the boys, doesn't it?
You know, it's a competitive race. It's a hard race, and you need the right horse.
They both have that sort of constitution for it.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Definitely. You know, the Stayers, 3 under 5 was always saving a little bit to himself. And he just wins enough, so you wouldn't know what was in the tank. And Barbados Bucks, just again a little bit. He just ambles around, picks up when you need him to, and gallops strong to the line. And he was very impressive the last day with a £10 penalty.
Yeah.
And it was so you know, they deserve to take their chances, and they're going to be super chasers next year.
What else have you got? Real Steel in the Ryanair. I mean, he ran a blinder, didn't he, in the Gold Cup 12 months ago?
I think the Gold Cup, he obviously didn't stay last year from the back of the last, and obviously they didn't go a great gallop in the Gold Cup. The ground was better, and he just took a little while to settle into how things are doing. They haven't been easy training Willis ex-horses, and you wouldn't expect them to be easy. But he's just beginning to come right. He travelled. If you look at the King George, he travelled, turning in the straight. I thought he's going to go close to winning. He stopped like he was shot, and it transpired he'd had a little bleed afterwards.
Right, okay.
For whatever reason. So we've kept him nice and fresh. He'll have an away day next week, and if it was nice ground, I just thought watching that his Gold Cup, wow, he's a proper Ryanair horse.
There's a side-on shot in last year's Gold Cup where he literally sliced through them and then went back.
Didn't stay up the hill. So I'd say the Ryanair's the right trip for him.
And was that when Willys came over here and you got your hands on them? Was that just them adapting to new surroundings and just finding their feet with your routine and stuff?
Yeah. We've only got a few of them left now, really, and you know, they've just taken the time to acclimatise or me work out how to train them or whatever. They haven't been easy, and he hasn't been easy. But I think the longer he's here, the more time we have, the better he's going to get. And I think that works out. That'll work with all of them. And I think he's in a great place at the moment. He looks good, so we'll see.
Right. Well, he's a big runner then.
Yeah. I'd like to think so. Yeah. Yeah.
What else have you got? A couple in the Hunter Chase, is that right?
Yeah.
Which won't be
it's
amateurs anymore.
Bob and Co will run in the Fox Hunters. He won last week at Haydock with Sean on it, and it's such a shame because David Maxwell bought it for himself to ride. He had a few little issues with last year with the steering and one thing and another, but he won 2 on him, and last year, believe it or not, he couldn't breathe, and he still won 2. Did a breathing up in the summer, and he hosed in the other day, and we were hoping that today we might get an announcement amateurs could ride at the festival, and David would obviously be riding it, but obviously he can't now, but he's kind enough to let us run him still. So I don't know whether Harry will ride him or whether he'll ride Shamrock, which Sam trains, but Bob and Co.'s got a really nice chance in that. It's a race we like to win, and I like having runners in the race, even though there are some people that don't like us having runners in the race, or professional trainers having a history of the sport. We always have done, and it's nice to have a horse, especially it would have been nice to have David riding him. He's a real true amateur. He bought it for himself to ride, and it's sad he can't, but we can't do anything about that. And the other horse who might run if I qualify him on Sunday, Samatagal, who's a good fun horse, again, was going to be for Natalie Parker to ride this year, but of course she hasn't. So I don't know, Brian Carver, somebody, if they run, so they'd have chances. But Bob and Co is probably the best of them. And
knowing David as you do and I do, he will, even if he's not on board, take tremendous satisfaction from winning that race, won't he?
I would, I'd love to. And then, you can have a go again next year. And then, hopefully from the 1st of April through the end of the season, there'll be a lot of Hunter Chases. Got a nice horse called Cat Tiger to ride at Aintree. He'll have plenty of good chances afterwards.